I want to start with, first of all, my name is John Quinn, and I want to start with the automatic registration of natural programs. The comparison between what we're doing today and what we used to do is quite interesting. In the previous process, it was all manually done. Before entering the MAT client, the user is required to produce a listing file. And the only option was to manually add that listing via the registration panel. These things should have been done prior to displaying any histograms. They could have been done when the histogram was displayed, but there would be a little sidestep in order to do that. And I'll explain that in a minute. The new process, however, is a lot different. All that's required is that to have your ADABAS session up and running. When you do that, MAT can obtain listings directly from ADABAS. You can still add them manually if you want, but that's not required. And if you do, again, those listings come directly from ADABAS. So there's no longer a need to run a separate batch job. MAT will register the listings automatically if needed when the histogram is requested. And there is also a transfer facility for retaining listings registered under the previous process. That would be the PDS listing manager. So this is the job that you would run. This is a natural or a software AG utility to run. You log on to your library and issue the list program command. In this case, I chose the program called cat fetch. And we're going to produce a listing file, a sequential data set, which could also be a PDS to contain the source statements for that program. Now, the next step would be to get into Mainframe Application Tuner and choose the registration option. And on the program registration entry panel, select the language and the listing manager, which in this case was PDS. And you can do the, when you get to the registered listings panel, you can do the add command to add a listing, specify the data set name, hit the enter key, and hopefully the program is successfully completed and registered. Back at the registered listings panel, we can do a browse, and we can see the source listing. And this is nothing more than a presentation of the output of the utility that you ran. The next logon for the library name and all that stuff comes from the natural utility. So we want to see the histogram. We'd return to the primary option panel. Choose monitors. In this case, I'm going to filter the profile list to just the natural, those that start with NAT, and I'm going to analyze the NAT batch profile. Once in analysis, I choose option 19 to display natural activity. And there's the program that we registered. Now we can do a histogram on that. And there's the source statements. That's the way it used to be. Now I'd like to switch over to the live system and show you the way it's changed to. So here we are live on my primary option menu. I'm going to go to registration first. And I'm going to show you that if I use, let's say, a language other than natural, assembler, for example, and I ask for the natural listing manager, I get an unsupported message. And expanding that says that natural is only supported for natural listings. So you can't use that listing manager for anything other than natural listings. If I chose PDS, for example, and went to natural, which is the old way of doing it, again, unsupported listing manager requires the natural list manager. So if I just type in NA here, you notice the all these listing managers, only the first two characters are capitalized. That's all you need to type in. So there I am. So now I have the new natural listings, registered listings panel. There's nothing here. So let's start by adding something. Now we have a different panel. We asked for 5 pieces of information. most of it, well, not most of it, actually two of those things you probably already know, which would be the library name and the program name. Hopefully you'll be able to find the DB ID and the file number that where the listings are stored or the source is stored, and the SVC number that ADABAS uses. These things would be available from your system administrator, your DBA, or whatever. But when you hit the enter key, there it is. It's completed. It's that fast with ADABAS up and running. So there it is. So the listing is manually registered. I can browse it. And also it looks different now. We have some more information at the top, and it looks more like other tables displayed in MAT. Okay, where we have the statement number and the source code. Let's see. There's nothing else in this one. That's the end of it. So we have the library that came from, the version of natural that it was cataloged under, and the type. We can do more than just programs now. We can do sub-programs and other components. The data was cataloged at the time, and the size in hex. And then the DB ID, and the fuser is the number of the ADABAS file where natural source statements are saved. So if I hit PF3 again, some of the commands at the top, you saw add. These are all point and shoot, by the way. I can type them in either way. Rebuild is going to take however many listings that are there and re-register them. And again, it's really quick here because there's only one, but you see now that it says manually re-registered. All right. So we'll leave that there for a moment. I'll come back and show these other commands in a bit. Let's go back to the monitor. Again, I'm going to do the same as I did in the slideshow. I'm going to filter on my profiles, and I'm going to analyze the NAT batch, and I'm going to go to option 19 again for natural activity. And here we have, see, I did logic XO1, so if I do a histogram, now this happens really quick, as I've been saying. I want folks to focus on this part of the screen. The messages are going to come up, and you're probably not even going to be able to read them. So there it is. That was listed, or that listing was registered already, and so it just went out and got the source statements. But if I go back and look at, let's do a histogram on our friend Catfetch here. Okay, that registered. There's the source. And if I go to registration from here, I now have 2 programs registered. So now let's go look at a different command here, show PDS. This is this gives you the ability to transfer listings from the old PDS registration manager. We can no longer access these directly. So if you want to keep them, you can do one of 2 things. You can transfer them over, or you can just delete them all and then wait for your measurements to pick those programs, and you can automatically register them. Well, let's take and transfer these 2, ACREX1 and 2. Okay, that was done. So now again, if I go back, there they are. Now the show PDS primary command only displays on your panel if you have listings in the old PDS manager. Once those have all been cleaned out, that command goes away. Now, of course, this you can also register individually. There it is. Or we can delete individually. Or we can delete the whole list. Now, I want to show you one other thing here. This is all happening on the local user information file for the given user, in this case me. If I go back to a couple more here, go back to the primary option menu and choose global and go to registration. And again, the same information here, natural. I can add, let's re-add this guy, just because it's there. So now it's been completed. ACREX2. If I come back out of here one more time and go to the local monitor, NAT, analyze that, and go to natural activity, filter this list on ACREX, X2. If I do a histogram on this, I get a message that this listing came from the global information file. It was not found in the UIF, but it was found in the global file. So we look in the user information file first. If we don't find it, we switch over to the global information file for the listing. And that's all I have